Oh, hey, I'm glad you're here. This episode has been a long time in the making. In fact, season 1 had this movie slated for the original lineup. It took me a very long time to find the right person. As you may know, many of my guests for our classic format are not people I knew prior to the episode. I just found them through one way or another and reached out. They agreed to participate, and we record that first conversation. I looked and looked for the perfect person for this episode, and I was so relieved to find Sosha and that they responded so quickly and kindly. I cannot thank them enough for what they share and how inspiring I found this conversation, so I won't make you listen to me up front anymore. I just wanted to acknowledge my appreciation for the people who are a part of VHS, who give me their time, who watch the movies. That's what makes this the show that it is, and also that includes you, the listener. So thank you too, and let's just get right to it. The film is Orgazmo. The guest is a model, adult film actor, and producer, and this is VHS. Greetings and salutations. This is VHS, the podcast where each episode is about a film and the guest has the profession or experience portrayed in the film. I'm your host, Dirk Marshall, and if you enjoy what we do and would like to play a pivotal role in supporting the artists we support, then please head on over to patreon.com/VHUS. You'll find lost episodes, pieces I write about movies that won't be covered on the podcast, and more. Also, all of our episode artwork is available in the shop at Threadless. Just head on over to vhspodcast.threadless.com and help us spread the word about the show and show love for your favorite episodes. There's shirts, hoodies, stickers, magnets, mugs, and more. Finally, if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, please give a rate and review so others can find us as well. My guest for this episode is a model, an actor in adult films, as well as a producer. It's Sosha Belle. Thank you for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. How are you this day?
It's been a pretty good day. Did some non-porn related work this morning, and I've just gotten away from the computer, so it's nice to leave the house.
Excellent. The film that brings us together today is Orgazmo from 1997. At the time of this recording, it is streaming. It's available on DVD and Blu-ray. But of course, I must encourage you to support your local video store like Movie Madness right here in Portland, Oregon. The synopsis is a naive young Mormon is recruited to act in porn movies. I guess that's about it. It's directed by Trey Parker, who made South Park, Cannibal the Musical, Book of Mormon, Team America. Written by Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the duo behind South Park and all the things I just listed. Our cinematographer is Kenny Giuseppe, who also did one live action segment for South Park and a few very small things, but nothing I could find. And our editor is Michael R. Miller. He did this with Trey. He went on to do Raising Arizona, Miller's Crossing, and Ghost World, so a lot of pedigree there with the Coens. Our composer is Paul Robb, who was a founding member of the 80s band Information Society, which is pretty wild. So all that fake porn music was by the same group that I'm sure Haley will drop in a clip right now.
I wanna know what you're thinking. There are some things you can't hide. I wanna know what you're feeling. Tell me what's on your mind.
The film stars Trey Parker, Matt Stone, Dean Bakar, Michael D. Jacobs, Toddy Waters, who are all in Cannibal the Musical, the movie they made before this, and it features real-life porn stars Ron Jeremy, Chasey Lane, and many, many more. So let's press play on Orgazmo.
What makes a man? Is it the power in his hands? Is it his quest for glory? Give it all you got to fight to the top, so we can know your story. Now you're a man, now you're a man.
We start with credits and the epic Now You're a Man song as we see comic book panels. We then opened with wistful music as we see two Mormons whistling, and approaching a door, it's Trey Parker and Stanley Sawicki. They ask a man what he would say if they offered him eternal happiness, and he says,
Fuck off!
Thank you. Have a nice day.
So they're having a rough go in Hollywood. Cut to a woman in undergarments and cliche funky porno music. Now, this film is a naive person getting involved in porn, but Trey Parker says that it's really the tale of them coming to Hollywood. The only thing they changed was they made Hollywood the porn industry, and the villain, sort of the higher-ups in Hollywood, played by this evil guy, which is why there's a lot of innocence in this weird movie and a real sweetness towards the actors that actually are porn actors in this, and are not being asked to do anything that they would normally do. They're actually delivered lines, which is pretty interesting to see in this like wild Naked Gun type film. I realize this is an antiquated adult film set, but what were your initial thoughts when you saw like how they're making this movie?
It actually wasn't too far off
Okay.
from a lot of my experiences. Porn creation comes in a really wide range of from like, you know, you and your friend in your bedroom with a webcam all the way to more really big elaborate sets like we saw in Orgazmo, or even more involved than that. I've seen like multiple crane rigs going
Oh,
on.
wow.
Depending on where you're at, like that's going to be, well, it used to be LA, and then LA got too expensive, and then it was Las Vegas, and then Las Vegas got too expensive, and now it's just kind of around the desert.
Wow.
But yeah, it wasn't too far off. Like there's the guy there's the Dave on every set. God bless Dave. There's like, you know, just regular cam ops, people who have been doing this. Most of them are probably also working on regular films, and this is what actually pays the bills.
Okay.
So most of the people you see on a porn set aren't there because they're super excited about pornography. They're there because it's a job.
It's a job.
I know
Sure.
so many cam ops that like you're getting paid, you know, pizza and an IMDb credit as a
Yeah.
as a noob in Los Angeles. And then you get to, you know, you're sitting under a glass bowl with a raincoat, but you're getting $300 a day for it.
Right.
So, yeah, it was very relatable in that way. And a lot of just like, yeah, people walking around half naked, throwing
Right.
stuff, finding their next costume piece. And like, that's totally actually how it
the
goes.
scene.
And like, nobody really bats an eye or cares. It's very casual in that way.
Yeah.
So there are definitely parts where I'm like, oh yeah, that's actually a lot more accurate than I would have expected.
That's so funny because they did in the making of the film like sort of get pass into the world of like porn films at the time, and so they really tried to base it off that. So that's good to know that they actually captured that, because in a film like this you wouldn't expect any kind of accuracy. So
Yeah, no, it was surprising. I will say a lot of that like level and budget of production is becoming a lot less and less
Sure.
common with just the overflow of porn on the internet and the overflow of online piracy of porn. So I guess my soapbox for the day is if you want to see more porns like Orgazmo being made, you know, like Pirates and the like that have
Right.
been like big since the 90s and the golden age of VHS porn, like
yeah.
pay for your
it.
porn. Because otherwise you're gonna get the same ex-hamster, two people amateur on a couch, and it looks like it was filmed on a calculator.
Right. Excellent. Well said. Right when the actress is about to show her breasts, into the frame steps a hairy man's ass. And I saw this in an art house theater when I was, I don't know, too young to have a 40, but I had one. And this killed us. We got the joke instantly that the whole time they're going to be like, the guys that came here to see women's breasts, this is what they're going to get
Yep.
every time. And it works. It is so funny. The film is interesting because it keeps doing this. It keeps subverting the straight male expectations of a comedy involving porn. It's like they can't help themselves when they're just like, they just have to subvert like everything all the time. And I just love that they just are giving middle fingers to everyone. The Mormons get the door shut on them again. And back in the adult film, the actress calls the man a stud and he tears off his mask to reveal he's Jizzmaster Zero, played by Ron Jeremy.
I'm not a stud. I'm not a stud. I'm Jizzmaster Zero!
No, help!
Ain't nobody gonna help you now, honey!
Through the wall burst Orgazmo, and he beats Jizzmaster Zero, and then we see the Mormon boys knock on an elderly woman's door, and she tells them off.
My goodness, you have such an attractive little garden here.
Oh, thank you, young man. I just planted those flowers last week. My, how they grow.
Yes, ma'am. We're from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Oh, the Mormons.
That's right. I'm Elder Young, and this is Elder White.
Well, you two boys can just fuck right off.
Ma'am?
You heard me. Take that Book of Mormon and shove it so far up your righteous asses that you choke. You soul-soliciting pig fuckers.
Back on the set, you get a feeling that nobody on the set has any passion for their work. They're just kind of phoning it in. And so I have to ask, on a set, let's talk passion. Whether producing or acting, how do you orchestrate, fabricate, facilitate, or fake passion?
I think every actor kind of has their own method, just like in a regular film. One of the analogies I tend to draw, because a lot of people see porn as in a different category than other movies, not just because it's adult and explicit, but they think that what they need to see is real because they're on that other side and they want to feel like they're part of it. And I think that kind of belittles porn, honestly.
Yeah.
If you're watching, like, say, the Blair Witch Project, you know that there isn't this spooky thing in the woods coming to get you. You know they didn't actually get a real, you know, like, Godzilla didn't get a real skyscraper tall monster to invade Tokyo.
Yeah.
But you still feel it in your heart. Like when you watch Blair Witch Project, you are scared. And it's the same thing with pornography, really. It's just that instead of feeling scared, they're trying to make the viewer feel aroused or interested in that way. So every that was a really roundabout way of coming to the question. But every actor's going to have their own method, the same with acting with your clothes on. Some people want to, you know, like really get into the moment. They'll take their time to prepare. Other people are just like have their plastered on face that they're just going to throw on and do it.
Right.
Some people will only act with certain other actors that they know they have a really good chemistry with.
Yeah, okay.
Other actors will just like work with anybody and it's just like, oh, hey, I've never met you. And you just kind of have to, that's one of the challenges of the job sometimes, is just kind of jumping in and simulating passion and chemistry with this person you've never met. And that's part of the craft. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Well said. But the question really came from the idea of like, everyone doesn't want to go to work some days. Yeah. So there's got to be some days where you're just like, for whatever reason, you're like, okay. Oh, like, how do I, because, you know, I'll be at the farmer's market with our business and people will be saying the nicest things. But even just that, after 5 hours, it's so much people that it's hard to reset. And you get to be like, no, thank you, but I don't have any more. Like, you know, you have to find it because there's still 2,000 more people that haven't talked to you yet or whatever. So yeah, every job is going to have that. And I guess that we all have different tools or the same tools even, just to make that work. Yeah, I think, especially because it's a very physically demanding job, so to speak. There are days when I definitely just feel tired. Right, yeah. There are times, even when it's like a great set, there's great chemistry, everybody's having a good time, you know, the crew's really experienced and everything's been flowing smoothly. Sometimes it's just like, I do not want to put my butt above my head right now. When I was, you know, like in my 20s, it was great. Right. Everything was smooth. Now it's like, Excellent. Sometimes you're just tired. Yes. But you have to just put on a face and do it anyway, just like customer service. Yeah, no, that makes sense. One of my friends says, lie back and think of England. Okay. We're going there in like a week. So back on set, Orgazmo jams his finger, a fire bursts out, the director's furious. Meanwhile, the Mormons decide that God will show them the way, and back on the shoot, it's interrupted by a knock at the door. So there's two stories becoming one here, and I want to talk about interruptions.
Let's talk about sets. Let's talk about control. Small interruptions to larger ones. There's a harrowing one that you tell in the Distance Sex Work in the Pandemic documentary you are in as well as produced. So I just wanted to shine a little light on that, point people towards it. But because you cover that interruption there, I don't want to do that one. But any others that you have, and also please tell people where they can find the documentary.
Yeah, Distance Sex Work in the Pandemic was a passion project that my business partner and I, Vivian Veit, made during the pandemic. I was interviewed for it for what was going to be a like 5-minute short, and then we realized this is a huge story, and we started calling a whole bunch of people. I wasn't actually involved in the documentary industry or anything other than acting and like occasionally being a PA before that. And then after several hundred emails and some help, pretending like I know how to run audio, I ended up with a producer credit, and it became a new passion.
That's fantastic.
You can find Distance Sex Work in the Pandemic on the No Worries Film Festival Patreon, which was just started last month, and I do not remember the link, but we can maybe
we'll put it up.
Put it in the description.
Yeah, for sure.
And yeah, what was the rest of the question?
Interruptions. Like you're filming and things go wrong or something. I mean, I imagine sometimes you're filming in a house. It's not a closed set, so to speak, or...
house, hotel room, park, alleyway.
Okay.
Interruptions are a thing that happen. We do our very best to, like, if we're shooting somewhere that people could walk by or witness, it's in the middle of the night, and we'll put up like a sheet or a barrier, or I won't name names because this might be incriminating, but we actually had somebody whose brilliant idea was to have her partner stand on one end of the park and tell them that we were filming VR for people with disabilities.
Oh, okay.
And to wait until we were done with the shot, and then I would dive into a bush and they would let people through. Of course, there's like the food delivery. I've had some like skeezier directors be like, go answer the door naked, it'll be funny. And I'm like, that's not how consent works.
Yeah, no thanks.
But most of the interruptions to a scene are going to be the director.
Yeah, okay.
Or the camera, or one of the actors saying like, oh, wait, we gotta fix that. This is a continuity, or, so-and-so's got a hair on their butt, or, yeah, so people like laugh because there is a lot of like, oh yeah, and then you hold. And then they say action. Oh yeah, that's the most commonly you're interrupted is just by the scene itself progressing.
That's so funny because there's parts of that are referenced in this movie, like where they are starting a scene and stopping a scene, and
highly relatable.
That makes that makes a lot of sense. Let's also talk from a producer level how you create a safe space for performers and makers, because I think it maybe was on Twitter where you were calling for people for you were creating a safe environment. I don't remember the wordage exactly, but I just thought that's fascinating. That's not something I've heard talked about.
Yeah, so creating a safe space on my sets, everybody's going to do this differently and to different degrees. One of the things that I have the advantage of is being a model myself. I find that shoots that are run by people that have modeled before tend to be the most supportive environments. If a director has never been a model, oftentimes they'll be like, oh yeah, I've been a model, but they're actually a director who just doesn't want to pay a male actor. They just want to fuck in front of a camera and say it's legal because they put a camera up. That doesn't count. If you are directing and you have not been a model, having another model on set, either as a production assistant or to run sound or to do anything like that, I like to make sure that the gender and sexuality of the models is always represented in the crew as well.
Awesome.
And I think that's really what's been the magic trick so far on all of the sets that I've been in, is just representing the people in front of the camera with the people behind the camera.
Yeah, makes total sense.
And if you're not able to do that, I let them bring a friend. Just be like, somebody that's going to make you feel comfortable. If they just want to sit in the corner and play Nintendo or whatever, that's fine. But like, I will encourage people, if you feel nervous coming to a set for the first time, bring someone with you.
Yeah.
And like being completely open to that is one of the other ways. always explaining the scene and everything that's going to happen in it.
Okay, we were going to talk about this later, but
Oh, okay, yeah.
but yes. So put a pin in that one because
Okay.
there's a part later on where I was like, this can't be how it works.
Yeah.
At least anymore, I hope. So back in the film, there's a bouncer guy who assaults Trey Parker, who happens to be a spry ninja. So the bad guy calls for more guards, and we get this kung fu spoof portion of the film, which is hilarious. They do sound effects and everything. The director loves his moves, and he wants to hire him. So my next question for you is, how do you find people to hire and collaborate with? Is this now easy in the digital age, or is it still sort of tricky? Because I feel like there used to be these huge stables of people that worked for these giant companies, and now there's a lot of people who kind of have their own avenues. So do you see people and reach out to them, or how do you?
Often it's reaching out to people.
Mhm.
I have the benefit of having been in the industry as a model since 2011.
Okay.
Yeah, 2011. So I kind of just have a metaphorical Rolodex of people that I call, but the issue with pornography is that, like, if you're on a site that's updating regularly, like every week, like some of them that I work on, people don't want to see the same models, and they constantly want to see new, and they constantly want to see younger. So yeah, which is its own thing.
Yeah.
But so it is a lot of reaching out to people, going out on Twitter, or I don't know, I'll dead name that.
Yeah.
And yeah, looking up anybody. Sexy Jobs is another way to do it. There used to be Backpage, that's gone for reasons that I talk about more in my
Yeah.
documentary.
I will say again, and maybe it'll come up again, but the documentary was a lot of things I knew nothing about, and it was
Mhm.
really well done. So I appreciated that you pointed me towards it, because as much as I didn't want to think about the pandemic, like most people, we're just like, let's just keep moving forward. It's a fascinating look at not just that time, but also a lot of the struggles that people have in the profession that anyone not in the profession wouldn't know about.
Mm-hmm. One of them being that the digital era is great for everyone who doesn't work in the sex industry.
Yeah.
Because we are constantly banned and we are constantly censored. So I'll even have to say something like, I can't even say like, oh, I'm looking to hire models for this porn. I have to say, I'm looking for spicy models.
Oh.
Send me a message. And then if they like reach out to that, then I can like talk to them. But yeah, I think it's easier and harder. There
Yeah,
are some
it
people
sounds
who
like
still
it.
work through traditional agencies. They tend
Mhm.
to be a lot more specific on who they will represent. You have to have a very specific look and
Mhm.
things that you're willing to do on camera. And so a lot of people are breaking out of that and doing their own kind of self-networking.
Yeah. It's interesting because as an outsider, you'd think like it's got to be so easy, but then there's these digital hurdles that, of course, are terrible.
It's a business.
Oh my gosh! So he gets invited in and listens about Jesus for a little bit, and we see Ron Jeremy in his underwear eating a banana.
I say unto you, nay. They are many. Yea. And we can witness of their sincerity because of their love towards their brethren and also towards us. So you see, Jesus Christ spoke to prophets right here in the ancient Americas.
Oh yeah, I dig that Jesus guy.
You do?
Oh, sure, the kids love him. Happy Tart?
Oh, thank you.
It's a great image that I don't think ever left my brain. The director offers him the lead, but Joe says he can't do this type of film. So let's talk about, quote unquote, these type of films. They seem to be always thought in the same way, which is completely separate from any other type of film.
Mm-hmm.
And often in a very disparaging way. I've had the pleasure of knowing a couple people who do a lot of commentaries for films. And some of the films that they've covered are directors working in softcore to more hardcore stuff. And so through listening to their commentaries, I've grown a huge appreciation for the filmmakers and the actors, because you just don't really have a backstory for a lot of these people's lives, especially if they've passed away. So that's an interesting insight for me. But those films are still called like sleaze and trash and, porno or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see a perception changing, or will this always be seen as something, at least in the West, as this lurid thing that people have done?
I like to be optimistic and think that
Me too.
we're always just a little bit around the corner from sexual liberation. I watch society step forward and step back.
Yeah.
Um,
Happens. It's exhausting.
It's the wheel of time or something. But yeah, stigma abounds. There are people that I've definitely had combined and mixed reactions when I tell people what I do for work. There was a long time when I didn't tell anybody what I did for work.
Yeah.
I was also a member of a church at the time.
Whoa.
Yeah, so a lot of this was very relatable to me. I'd actually never seen the film before and enjoyed it way more than I thought I would.
Oh, good, because
So-
I was terrified.
Oh my gosh, no, I thought it was hilarious.
Okay, great.
I was cackling harder than I think I have at any comedy in a very long time.
Well, I think the documentary is so well done that you made that I just was like, this is very serious. And I had never had the pleasure of meeting you, so I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go. I didn't know your personality. Just the second I met you in the driveway, I was like, oh, good, okay. I feel great about this.
They look normal.
Well, I don't ever want to offend people, and
No,
this is
that's
something
fine.
that could easily have offended somebody. And
Maybe.
so, as long as somebody gets the humor, then you get, oh, okay, like I get what this thing is. But I've definitely had people watch movies for the podcast, and they didn't enjoy it at all. And so, that's a bummer, but we still had a great conversation. So that's
I really loved it. Yeah, so a long time I didn't tell anybody what I do because of that stigma and because I was afraid that they would think various stereotypes about me, which there are plenty. We all know what they are. I kind of just cut my old city cold turkey and moved somewhere else and decided I'm going to try this differently. I'm tired of coming up with, oh yeah, I'm going to my friend's wedding in Los Angeles. I have a lot of friends in Los Angeles who get married. You can only use that
yeah.
like, why are you always traveling? Oh, you drive for Uber. How can you afford this apartment? Like, it just, the lying got so overwhelming after a while. As you see with, like, oh, it's Death of a Salesman.
Yes.
Oh, it's a sequel. Oh, no, it was the CIA. Like, that was a super relatable moment because you are constantly, if you are not wanting to admit that you work in porn, you are constantly lying on the fly. So you get really good at acting. You get a lot of practice. Yeah, now anytime I meet somebody, they're like, oh, hey, what do you do for work? And I'll be like, oh, yeah, hi, I'm a sex worker. I work primarily in porn and in video calls. And some people will just be like, oh, and like kind of walk away awkwardly. Or some people will like straight up to my face say like, oh, well, I can't approve of that. And then most people, especially in Portland, are just like, oh, neat. And then they have a lot of questions.
That's Portland.
Which that's been kind of how I gauge who I want to make friends with. Because at this point, like, the important people are going to approach it. If they haven't already done the work to battle that kind of stigma, they're at least going to approach it with curiosity instead of judgment.
Yeah.
And the ones who don't, I'm just like, I don't have time for you.
Yeah, exactly. There's just really no point. You touched on video calls. That's something that, like, I don't have in my notes, but I do want to talk about what this side of this job entails. So is this, like, how does somebody find you for, I assume they find you for the video call.
Yes, I'm listed on nightflirt.com.
Oh, see, I've never even heard of Night Flirt.
Yeah, I don't get on very often anymore. I kind of got tired out from it now that I'm running two-ish small businesses.
You've got enough going on.
But yeah, basically they go online, they find a picture and a description and a list of like I wills and I won'ts, and if they...
So everyone has like a menu.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And if they want that, then they give me a call. I get the little thing pop up on my phone, and then we have interactions. Some people just want to talk about something that happened.
Yeah.
A lot of people just want to ask how my day was. Like, I have a surprising number of clients that are just like, oh, what did you have for dinner? And I tell them about my sandwich.
Yeah.
All the way to some people really want to get like down and dirty real quick. They want to like get their rocks off and then hit the end call button as fast as they can so they don't have to pay a cent more than they have to.
Okay.
Because it is a pay per minute call, just like...
Sure. So it's like an expansion on like the olden 900 numbers or whatever.
Yeah,
but it's a
essentially.
video call version.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I do just talk and also just text sometimes, and that can be like the old school like phone sex operators.
Yeah.
I have so much respect for them because it's hard to do just with voice, I think. I'm so much used to being a physical actor that...
Yeah, we did an episode on the movie Girl 6, which I don't know if you've seen that, but it's a Spike Lee movie. It's very hard to find. But in the film, the lead actress starts work at a phone sex company. And so the guest that I had on, she had over 15 years of experience. and talked about like how difficult it was to stop doing it, how she kept some clients. She was, in relationships that whole time and about that kind of struggle. But the thing that like really was the heart of the episode was her talking about the connectivity of people, and that just like you were talking about people asking about dinner, sometimes as humans, like that's all we need is like, we get lonely or we have these like deficits in our life that people can fill in different ways. And that's just one of the aspects of your profession in the different hats that you wear, where you can impact people's lives very positively. And it's sad that we don't often hear about that in a wider range.
Yeah. I usually like, it depends on my relationship with the client. Like if we get to a point where like I feel very, very familiar with them, I'll just say, I'm a lot more expensive than a therapist if you have insurance. I think that's something that you should like bring up with them, and I think it'll do a lot more good to you than me, a just civilian who's not trained in this art.
Yeah.
But so I have had those moments, but a lot of it is like, I would say that kind of work is like maybe 20% sex and 80% therapy.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Maybe their therapist won't talk about dinner.
Maybe yeah, there's a familiarity there. Like it really works for some people, and I won't like say no, therapy is the only way to do this. Like our work is important for a reason. But
sure, no, I agree. Back-to-back questions here, because now it's the digital age. Is it better owning content, or are flying you to Las Vegas? Like, what's better for you personally, business-wise versus personally, I guess?
I think the toss-up is money versus effort, and it really depends on what kind of effort you want to put in and what you've got established. Owning your own content means that you are also selling your own content, which once again, very hard to do in an age where people are being bombarded with this content. So you have to be really good at marketing as well. You have to be really good at networking. You have to know like the industry itself, and you have to know your customer base. And it's basically working, like you have to make the thing and then you have to sell the thing. So you are working two jobs at once. Sometimes it's very lucrative. Sometimes it's not. And you don't really find out until you've already put in all of the work.
Just seems exhausting.
Yes. Yes, it is. A lot of the work that I produce and direct is for other websites. So I'm being like basically the middle management.
Got it. Okay.
So I get, basically they send me this is the money for the shoot. And then I spend what I have to out of that to make the content. And then I pocket whatever's left over. So that's kind of like an in-between the two. And sometimes I act in those if I want to save the...
Yes, there you go.
Because models are a lot more expensive than crew.
Yeah.
So there's that. Whereas being flown to somewhere, or there's a lot being made locally as well, where it's a little more intense because I don't have as much control over the situation. Like I get to define what my own boundaries are, but there are some things like, oh, I have to do my makeup this way. I have to go buy these outfits. I have to get this kind of manicure. I have to talk to these people, some of whom I like, some of whom every job you have those people that you like to work with and the people that you don't. It's like, oh, I'm going to have to watch this guy's stupid YouTube videos that aren't funny for the entire break today, kind of thing.
Yep.
And then it just kind of takes up a whole day, but you get the check and you go home.
Right.
And so that cut and dryness is also a lot easier. So you're basically balancing money versus control over the project.
Yeah, which is true for like a lot of actors, and they get to like go do, it would be like a bigger film or something that they're less artistically interested in, but that money can fund them to produce their own thing where they have all the control and are completely comfortable. So it's not that different, really.
You say you do one for them and one for me.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So Joe's offered $20,000 for 2 days, and they will use a stunt cock, so he's got that going for him. So he returns to the room he rented, calls his fiancée, and tells her it's $20,000, and she screams. And she tells him, you got to do it.
Hello.
Hi, Elise.
Hi, honey.
How are things in Utah?
Well, Utah isn't as nice without you, that's for sure. How are things there?
Oh, fine. I had an interesting day. I got offered a part in a movie.
A movie? Like a Hollywood movie?
Yeah, and it pays a lot.
Oh, Joe, that's wonderful. Is it enough so that we can get married in the temple?
Lisa, it's $20,000.
Oh, you're the best, Joe.
Well, I don't know if I'm gonna do it, Lisa.
What? Well, why not?
There's some things in the movie that are against God's way, and I...
Joe, even if movies are a little crude now and then, I think that the Lord understands that you need money for your family's future. $20,000 would get us off to a great start.
And so he's like, all right, I guess I'm going to make some porn. But he lies and says it's death of a salesman. And then they sign off by saying, Jesus and I love you too.
Jesus and I love you, Joe.
Jesus and I love you too, Lise.
These guys love to lampoon the Mormon religion, and it is endlessly funny. I am sorry, but also they're hugely successful with the Book of Mormon. So, but man, the Jesus and I love you thing gets me every single time. So he prays to a statue of Jesus and says, "Send me a sign if I shouldn't do it." And there's an earthquake that breaks the head off the Jesus statue, and he says, "Any sign at all." And I'm so happy and overjoyed that you're laughing at this because it made me laugh so hard.
Like trying not to interrupt here.
Yeah, no, feel free.
Oh my gosh. As a former evangelical, there's so much of this that resonated.
Oh, that's so great. The next day he shows up for his first day, and we're seeing his start in the industry, but we don't know yours. So where did this all begin for you?
Yeah, I started out, I started college during the 2008 Depression.
Yep, remember it.
College students were climbing over each other like crabs out of a pot to get a minimum wage job at Arby's.
Yeah.
And there was just no money, there was no work anywhere. I got offered a position for work study at the university I was attending. And it was $12 an hour,
Ooh.
which was more money than I had ever seen in my 20-year-old life. And it was to model nude for art classes.
Oh, okay, figure
For my
drawing.
figure drawing.
Yeah.
And I took the job, didn't tell my pastor or anything like that. But
that seems like a big jump to go from just to be comfortable in a room full of people where the only person not wearing clothes is you.
yeah,
Where did that confidence come from?
I don't know. I've always really been interested in the arts, and so
Yeah.
I had been to art modeling sessions as a not any good artist.
Same. I did too. Straight out of high school, the first thing I took was a figure drawing class.
So that's how you learn, and I just thought it was really neat. I loved seeing the way people can know two people's perspective on this one object. In this case, I mean, not object, it's a person.
Yeah.
On this one person can be so different, and I was really fascinated by that, and it just was an environment that felt very comfortable to me. I knew how it was gonna go. You come in with your robe, and then when everybody's ready, you stand in the middle, you take it off. I'm autistic, and so having a script was more important to me than being naked.
Yeah.
So I'd been to the class, and I knew exactly what it was going to look like, and didn't necessarily know what it was going to feel like. But I wasn't really nervous about the naked thing for some reason. It just...
Did you start out having to do a pose? Did you sit in a chair? Because that's the thing I always thought was it was interesting to see everyone's different style. There was one guy who was very angular in what he would strike, and
Yeah, picking poses is really fun. I actually had a reference book that a friend...
There you go.
Who was also in the art class with me and sworn to secrecy, that she gave me a posing guide, and I would look through and be like, ooh, I really like that one. So I would do that one the next day. Some of them were like, ooh, I don't know if I can hold that for more than 10 minutes.
You're gonna get tired.
It is a physically exhausting job. A lot of modeling is physically exhausting.
Yep.
But I really loved that job. And then one day after class, one of the students came to me and said, hey, I'm also a photography student, and I have this photo project. Would you be interested in modeling for that? It transitioned from the...
Yeah.
And then that was a whole $20 an hour.
Yes.
So I was like, yeah, sure, why not?
Mm-hmm.
Really loved having my photo taken. Like, it was something that came naturally to me. I was a dancer and a theater kid.
I was gonna
growing
say.
up.
Okay.
So just having that comfort in front of
Yep.
people, portraying like big expressions and also dancing and movement and
Mm-hmm.
finding different poses and holding them was something I was really used to. And just loved it. Had a fantastic time. Took the money, went home, had the pictures. One of the first photo shoots I ever did, I still have framed
Oh,
on
that's
my
rad.
wall because I just like it was such a special thing to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I got an account. I think it still exists, modelmayhem.com.
Never heard of
It
that.
might just be a bunch of ads now. I have no idea. But
Model Mayhem.
back in the day, that was how you connected models with photographers.
Oh, wow.
I did a lot of work building a portfolio. A lot of that was like, I want you to stand nude next to a waterfall for, dinner and some prints. And there was a lot of that.
I've seen a lot of those, I think.
Yeah.
We have a lot of waterfalls here in Oregon, so.
I will say the number of like really skeezy, creepy porn makers I have met is so much smaller than the number of skeezy, creepy art photographers I have met. So much of it is, I didn't have anything to do with my retirement money, so I spent it on a, thousands of dollars camera, and I'm gonna find this, young
young again.
femme and give them maybe $20 and make them do ridiculous things. So that I can look at a naked young human.
Yeah.
But anyway, I did that for a while, got kind of burnt out on that, was thinking like, I was having to go farther and farther out of my town because I didn't live in a very big city at the time, going on longer and longer trips just to make this feasible. And it was starting to get to where I wasn't paying the bills again.
Oh.
I had somebody from hdwedding.com who I still work with to this day. We are very close. Which if somebody told me I was going to meet one of my closest friends this way, we've been friends for 12 years now, I would have laughed hysterically.
HD Wedding?
Yes, hdwedding.com.
Okay.
And they sent me a message. They were like, you don't even have to take your clothes off. You stand in front of the camera, you talk a little bit, and then you pee in your pants, and we give you money. And I was like, well, that's something I haven't tried before. I was very camera shy. The first shoot took a long time.
From a wedding site.
Yes.
I love it. I love the turn because you're like, you don't have to take your clothes off. I was like, this sounds easy. And then you're like, all you gotta do is pee your pants. And I was like, I mean...
It's like taking my clothes off is a lot easier,
That's way
honestly.
easier.
But I did, everybody on the set was really, really nice, and they were just good people, and it was fun, and it was like easy work. It was a lot of playfulness to the scenes because it's a very
Sure.
silly thing. And
Yeah,
they've
you'd
been
have to...
producing like a video a week for like almost 20 years now. Like you start coming up with, so we've got plots with ray guns. We've got plots with,
Not far off from this.
we did an entire like the Raven parody with a evil telemarketer. Like,
Okay.
so we got to have a lot of fun and like got to have more creative input as we went on, and we would just like sit around and like over dinner and come up with some far-fetched video ideas and make them, and it just became a really, really good time. So from there, it was a lot of word of mouth. That director was like, oh, hey, have you worked with this person before? And so got involved with Lily Campbell, who's another really close friend, who I believe is not currently working because the website she was on was closed down recently. But yeah, and she was fantastic and did a lot more. Hers was very like naturalistic. It was just her and the model, and she would just set the camera and kind of quietly goblin into the corner and just let you do your thing. Just you and the camera and a vibrator or whatever you brought with you.
Yeah.
And then she would just like kind of like coo over you, draw you a bath, bring you ice cream if you wanted. I was vegan at the time, so she actually brought me non-dairy ice cream.
Wow.
And like just being treated so nicely by this person who was so gentle and like there's a lot of gratitude for what the model was doing. And so I worked with her for a long time as well. And then, yeah, just mostly word of mouth at that point. This was before a lot of the technological connections we have now.
Yep.
And yeah, it's 2024 now, and I'm still going strong. I do a lot more creation now than modeling. Usually, once again, it's a like, models are a lot more expensive than crew. I can pretend I know how to run audio today. I do actually kind of know how to run audio now. The first time I tried it, I did not. And got a lot of notes on that shoot. But,
That's how you learn.
but yeah, that's how I got here. It kind of started and it's kind of escalated. But yeah, art modeling was the gateway there.
The gateway.
Art,
I love it.
Like loving art and being broke was the perfect combination.
There's probably a lot of through lines for people that way. Yeah. It's like what you're comfortable with and it makes money. So it's like, yeah, okay, great.
It's a lot easier than working for, it was like, I think minimum wage then was like 6 something at McDonald's.
Yeah.
And like way easier than that.
Yes, certainly. Let me ask you a question. What would Cafe Flesh be without Tantala Ray? What would Slumber Party 2 Massacre be without Atanas Illich? What would Electric Dragon 8000 Volts be without Tadanobu Asano? The answer? They wouldn't be the same, because you need that certain flavor. That's like food without Marshall's hot sauce. For 14 years, chef, teacher, and cookbook author Sarah Marshall has been making delicious and flavorful sauces in small batches by hand. Every bottle of Marshall's hot sauce is prepared by Sarah. You can elevate every meal with the help of an actual chef who's using the freshest produce and the highest quality ingredients. Plus, she now has launched a seasoning line taking actual produce, dehydrating and freeze-drying them, and powdering them to make delicious seasonings without chemicals or binders. There's even more at marshallshotsauce.com. That's Marshall's, HAUTESAUCE, from an actual hot sauce subscription, which gives you guaranteed access to limited edition sauces, to a gourmet pasta with special herb blends rolled right into the noodles. You'll find it all at marshallshotsauce.com. Enter VHS Podcast for 20% off. And now, back to the show. Next, Joe's brought into costumes and meets Chota Boy, and he breaks down the plot of the film they're in.
Ben Chaplesky. I play Chota Boy.
What's a Chota Boy?
I'm your sidekick.
My sidekick? I have a sidekick?
Yeah.
What? Ah! I didn't know I had a sidekick.
Didn't even tell you the plot?
No, they just said I'm a superhero.
Right. You're Orgazmo, and you fight crime with your Orgazmo Raider. And I'm your sidekick, and I help you out with my specially designed sex toys.
Oh.
Trey says, I'm a normal person, and Chota Boy says, we're all normal.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting point to find in the film, right?
That was, I think, my favorite moment.
Yeah.
And then, he goes on to talk about his physics degree. And
Yeah, that he has anything outside of, what they're doing as a profession. Like, that, it's very, there's a way of seeing performers in this profession that is just one note, and you don't think, like, that they have anything of interest to offer the world. I did an episode with a dancer for a film called Dancing at the Blue Iguana, I think, and they are an incredible Jenna McAllister, incredible singer, like super skilled at all kinds of things, and you're just like
multi-talented.
Yeah, exactly, multi-talented. Thank you. But that's this one scene in the silly movie, and you just go, yeah, you get it.
We're all normal people.
Normal people.
That's one of the, like, I wouldn't even say stigma, but like myths that come out a lot, and it kind of comes from inside and outside the industry. There's this like mystique over these like models and who are they, but I remember once again also at the university I was at the time, there was somebody who got in trouble with the school because she was shooting a like very, very soft core scene in the library. Oh. And I remember hearing people around me talking like, oh my gosh, a porn star goes to OSU. I'm like, did you know that? Oh, really? Like here at this, and I'm like, you think there's only one of us?
Seriously.
College is fucking expensive. But the other one I get is actually from producers who I don't think are really involved other than like, here's the money for the video, I'm going to put it on my website.
Yeah.
So they'll get a lot of descriptions that'll be like, must look like someone you meet every day, cannot look like a porn star, must look like a regular person. And I get that a lot, and I'm always like, how do I look like a regular person? Like, what are people thinking, that they just keep us in cryostasis somewhere and just pull us out to shoot and then put us back? Like, no, we walk among you. Somebody you know is a sex worker. They just might not have told you yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Like anybody listening to this, somebody you know is a sex worker. So when you're talking to people, talk to them as though they might be.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Then the director tells the actors what they'll be doing in the scene, and I thought, that can't be how this works.
Okay, this is what we're doing. 1, Candy, Safi, and Jizzmaster Zero are getting busy on the bed.
How busy?
Both of you are doing oral on him. And then 2, Orgazmo and Chota Boy break through the wall. 3, they fight with Jizzmaster Zero and his henchmen. And 4, you all fuck like nasty pigs. Got it?
Nasty pigs, got it.
Like any job, like you would have to know what's going to be asked of you on the day, right? Do you find out like ahead of time, like it's this position, this act, this what? You wouldn't just show up on the day and they're like, "This is what we're all doing."
Yeah, no, that's not how it typically goes. Oftentimes when you're setting up a scene, especially with shooting somebody for the first time, it's a negotiation. So you will send like, this is the range of things we do on this particular set. Which of these things do you want to do? Which of these things are you okay with doing but don't particularly feel one way or the other about it? And which of these things do you absolutely not want to do? And then we'll also ask them like, and is there anything else that's not on this list that you absolutely do not want to do? And based on that response, the director will then craft the scene to include, hopefully, most of the things that they said they really want to do.
Right.
And if the site has a very specific niche audience where it's like, okay, well, like, there has to be this particular act somewhere in it, and you listed this as an okay, so we'll just, like, squish it in at some point, but mostly focus it around what you actually really enjoy.
Got it.
And in most and any professional shoot, you're going to get that full rundown description of what you're going to be doing in each scene that you film that day. Sometimes you'll improv, like sometimes the model will show up and be like, oh, actually, I like had this wicked back strain yesterday playing Wii tennis or whatever. Yeah. That might have been me. Can we like adjust this position? And they'll be like, oh yeah, sure. And we'll do something different. Or sometimes a scene will be going like really, really well in a certain direction. And like I've seen like models be like, oh, hey, can I do this to you real quick? And they'll be like, oh yeah, totally. Okay. So I've seen things like that happen. Like when models have like a particular chemistry and they just want to like go in a particular direction. And a good director will step back at that point and say like, oh yeah, go. And just like leave the camera running.
Okay.
But no, it's very rare and the worst scenes where you're going to show up and have no idea what you're doing that day.
Yeah, because I mean, there's also hygiene and things involved. And I know there's prep that can be days ahead of time for certain things. And in this film, they just address shaving testicles. But I thought that was sort of their way of saying there's hygiene involved here.
There is.
This is where we're introduced to Dave. He's played by Matt Stone. He's a very excited photographer in the film.
We're sucking. Yeah, suck that cock! Damn it, Dave. Keep your mouth shut.
Sorry, dude. Got a little excited.
Bless his heart. He's so great. Dave's my favorite part in the whole film. The shoot starts and we get one of the many tiny silly jokes where Joe says, I don't know if I can do this. And Ben says, just do like I'm doing. And Ben's stretching his back. So then Joe just starts doing the same. Stretch. And in the outtakes, there's like 10 of that because they just kept laughing about how silly it is that they both are doing this backstretch. It's totally my type of humor, is this type of silliness. So I love that scene. And then Orgazmo and Chota Boy burst into the room and Joe freezes because he's never seen fellatio before. And it's so funny. And they defeat Jizzmaster Zero and his henchmen. And then Joe hasn't made out before, so it's very awkward. And then they call stunt cock, and the guy comes in just saying, how you doing to everybody like 3 times.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing?
Dave stops Joe and asks him about the Clash of Titans.
You know, you did a good job in there, man.
Thank you.
Did you ever see that movie, Clash of the Titans?
Oh, with the Greek mythology stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a queer or nothing, but I think unicorns are kick-ass.
I'm going to tee up every single thing that Dave says in this because he's so funny. Later, Joe is reading the Bible, and an old actress asks what he's reading, and he says, when the Mormons first arrived, they couldn't get jobs, and she says they should have done double anal.
For the time is at hand that all men shall reap a reward of their works. See, when the Mormons arrived in Missouri, they needed to find jobs, but no one would hire them.
They should have done double anal.
Excuse me?
Yeah, you get to be my age, you gotta do double anal or no one will hire you.
Right. See, people wouldn't hire the Mormons because of their beliefs.
Now, I'm the only one in town who do double anal
and double vaginal at the same time. You know, DVDA. Well, that's how I still manage to get work.
I see. I don't think you quite understand what I'm...
I don't understand? Hey, look, pal. You try having 4 dicks in you at one time.
No, thank you.
That one was also very true, unfortunately.
Well,
and there are the veterans that, like, that's just, like, the way they're gonna put it.
Yeah.
And, like, it doesn't matter if you're talking to somebody in the industry. It doesn't matter if you're talking... Because after a while, of being in the industry, you kind of lose touch with people who aren't.
yeah, yeah.
To the point where just saying, like, oh, they should have done double anal is, like,
Yeah.
a perfectly normal, casual comment to make to this point.
Well, then she says, like, DVDA.
Oh, yeah.
And
That I do not know what that is.
with double vaginal, double anal. But
I have not seen that. It probably exists somewhere. Everything exists somewhere.
well, so when my friend and I saw this in the theater, we left the theater with this newfound knowledge, and we were just like, but how would you get 4 people?
I'm sure it's been done.
I mean, I'm sure it has, but like, I didn't know what Pilates were back then, so I wouldn't even know how people would get that stretchy. But yeah, it was quite an unbelievable mental image. She gets on set, removes her robe, and then in steps 4 hairy man, and you see their asses. And the way they escalate the jokes, it's
so good.
It's so good. The actress is addressing aging in the industry, and at least how it used to be. But do you see age or size or any other visual component as a hindrance, or are they more like positive niches?
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
If you want the really, like, you know, I'm going to get an agent, I'm going to go, you know, be flown around the world for these shoots, I'm going to be a big name in the AVNs, I'm going to... Basically the ones that make the kind of money that people think all porn stars make, which is another myth that is not true. Most of us live paycheck to paycheck like everyone else. There's a specific look and age and size. When I was doing a lot more getting casted and a lot less making my own work, I had to keep my hair long, not dye it, couldn't get any tattoos. I'm non-binary and really wanted to get top surgery, but didn't for years because I knew I wouldn't get work anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know, it's probably the titty.
It's in the song.
I love it so much.
But it's probably
But yeah, in that regard, like, there's very much an image and a look and, like, oh, yeah, we've got diversity in this film.
Right.
We don't just have blondes, there's a redhead for spice.
Yeah. Yes.
And I guess that's the other thing is, even outside of those lines, even in the, you know, and there are many genres that are calling themselves ethical porn, which I have a whole other side track on.
I've never even heard of that.
Issues on that term, but where they're casting more diverse models.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
A large majority of them are going to be white.
Oh, yeah.
If you are not white, you are going to be cast only for roles that call for that specific non-white color or ethnicity, and you're very, very likely going to be fetishized for being black or being Asian.
Got it.
Outside of that, there are specific niches. The more fetishy you go, the less picky they are, which is why I did a lot of fetish porn, because I'm short and look like this weird little guy. And I'm also in my 30s, which, like, you might as well be, like, using a walker at that point if you want to get cast by any
age is
sort
still
of
a
mainstream.
thing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Everybody wants you to look like you just turned 18. Which is
so confusing.
It's disgusting, but that's a whole thing.
As someone in their 40s, I find anybody, like, even close to 21 looks like a child.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It just doesn't. It's so weird as you get older, and then you see younger people, and you're like, what are you, 12? They're like, I'm 22. And I'm like, I don't get it.
I've showed up on sets, too, with other models that I'm supposed to work with and been like, oh.
No.
Am I fucking her? Or are we going to go to Target and I can get her an icy and a teddy bear?
They're like, that's the scene, actually. Yeah.
I mean, that would be really fun. We could just have a day off.
Yeah. Someone's going to be into that. You just got to find the niche, I guess.
But yeah, the more fetishy you go, the less picky they are, because there are fewer models willing to do some of those things. Yeah. I personally, due to some medical reasons, would way rather get, like, hung upside down and hit with a stick than a lot of sex acts.
Yeah.
Just because they're a lot more comfortable for me. So I get cast in a lot that way. You can have more tattoos, etc. So I kind of started leaning that area for the more alternative crowd, where you can kind of have your own look. And that became a lot, like, it wasn't quite as lucrative, but it was a lot more freeing.
Yeah. I'd imagine once you get into like the more niche stuff, people can find you just via keyword searches and things. So that's probably helpful rather than just be like person having sex.
Yeah, I used to get tagged as like brunette big boobs, whereas it's difficult because there's not a lot of like FTM performers like
Oh, there's not.
Yeah, like everybody knows like the couple that they've heard of, but there's usually if somebody's looking for transgender porn, they're looking to fetishize trans women.
Okay.
So really have to just go for that like LGBT niche, and it's growing. And I find that a lot of the LGBT community is more willing to pay for their porn. So
Well, that's good.
because the stuff that's dedicated to them is so hard to find. So
Right.
much of LGBT porn in the past has been lesbian fetishization or
Yep.
fetishization of trans women. It's made for a straight male audience. It's
Yeah.
not made for a queer audience. And as the LGBT community is growing in visibility and number, we're making porn for that we want to watch.
Yeah.
So staying within the like industries definitely doesn't pay as much. Like the really, really big one is like Crash Pad. That's been around for a long time.
I don't know what that is.
You have to find your own co-star and you get basically an amount that barely covers your travel expenses. They're wonderful, like check them out, but like it's not going to be the same level of monetary success, but it's work that feels a lot more genuine, and I'm more proud of what I've made at the end of the day. Because I am proud of what I do.
Yeah, and that's Crash Pad, was that one?
Yeah, that one's really great.
Next, they go get sushi, and we meet G-Fresh.
Yo, yo, yo! What's up, homies?
How's it going, G-Fresh?
Oh, just kicking it. You know what I'm saying, G? Oh, yeah. G-Fresh in a motherfucking house.
Hey, G-Fresh, I want you to meet Orgazmo here.
I'm not Orgazmo.
This guy actually had a sushi bar, and they befriended him, and they put him in Cannibal the Musical and in this movie. He was just a sushi guy that they loved, and we're like, be in our film, and we absolutely love it. Joe says, shouldn't we call the police? And they all laugh and ask where he's from, and he says, Iowa. And
I'm so sorry.
He says, no, Utah, and they all apologize. A continuing theme we have for small towns.
Joe, the police can't help. Jeez, where are you from? Iowa or something?
No, Utah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was a moment that, like, obviously for reasons in the 90s, they wouldn't, like, super spin into it, but, like, you mentioned calling the police to any person in any aspect of the sex industry, and that's the response you're gonna get.
Yeah.
They're more likely to handcuff you than anyone who is perpetuating a crime against you.
Such a bummer. The next day on set, Joe's just not into it, and the henchmen arrive, they beat him up, and then the actress slips and falls. So insurance, let's talk insurance. Do you have to have insurance for shoots?
I'm gonna play the fifth on that one.
That's how I thought it would go. It's a funny scene anyway.
I guess the thing I can put a little bit on that is that most insurers won't touch you. Most banks won't touch you.
Yeah.
I've applied even just for E&O insurance for distance and got turned down by so many people because you say the word sex and nobody wants to touch it. And there's a lot of legitimate legal reasons for that. But I would imagine even just insuring a porn set would be an absolute nightmare to even try to do if it were even possible.
Right. Well, that makes sense. We next see Joe and Chota Boy pull up to his house, and we think he's talking to Joe, but it's actually his own internal monologue. And I think that scene is hilarious. That he's like, what? And he's like, nothing. It's so funny.
I'm glad you could come over for dinner, Joe. I'm really excited to show you my laboratory where I design things. I think you might find one thing in particular very interesting.
Did you say something?
Nah, I was just thinking.
So Joe asks him about a shrine, and he says this funny story about hamster style and how he decided not to do it anymore.
See, when I was a kid, I learned a lot of different kung fu styles. One of the styles was hamster.
Hamster style? I don't think I've seen you do hamster.
No, I vowed to my father I would never use hamster style again.
Why? What happened?
I don't like to talk about it.
Well, maybe it would help you to talk about it. You know, get it out.
I don't know if I can.
Well, what are you running from, man?
I don't know. Guess maybe I'm just running for myself. I mean, it happened several years ago, but I can remember it like it was just yesterday.
Ben says he got super rich from all the patents. They're down in the laboratory, and he's built a real orgasmerator. So he puts it on and shoots Chota Boy, and then shoots his own foot, and then shoots Chota Boy again. And if you forgot what you're watching, these are men making each other orgasm.
Mm-hmm.
In there, it's just so funny that they made an action comedy and that so many straight men were going to go watch it and not even put together that these men are getting each other off.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I love it. So he puts it on, and next they take to the town. They first shoot 2 women, then 2 rabbis, then Dave, who stops mid-sentence and then goes right back into his stories.
I feel like that just happens for Dave.
It's so funny. I agree, yeah.
That's probably just how his day goes sometimes.
Yeah. And then an old lady, and then my favorite, which is a cop who's patting a guy down. And it is, again, they knew exactly who was going to come see this movie, and they're like, and then the cop's going to like feel this guy, and then this open mouth kiss, and it's just like, wow. It's a lot.
More likely than you think.
Yeah. Oh, no. Oh,
sorry, I'll get on my ACAB box
no.
if you want me to, but I can put it away if you don't.
Oh, no. That makes me so sad.
Sorry. Strong feelings on the subject.
There are so many kinks, subgenres, genres. When it comes to content, are there trends and things, or how do you decide as a creator, like you mentioned the peeing thing, being like, okay, this is something that I'll make. Do you try other things, or do you have friends suggest, like, this is an avenue that's becoming really popular, you could do this? Or you mentioned being hung upside down and beat with a stick. Like, does it come from your own mind or other people's, is what I'm saying?
I've mostly, like, the stuff that I make that's just on my own, available on my I Want Clips, that's just, like, me fucking around in my house.
I Want Clips is another website?
Yeah, iwantclips.com. That's where you can buy my, like, self-produced stuff. It's not high quality. A lot of them are just custom requests that I get that I then repost so that other people can buy them, and I get a little more return on investment for those. Some of it's just like me setting up a smartphone and just like, okay, here's my show today. And that's literally just whatever the heck comes into my brain that morning. I don't really do any research into that because it's just like...
Just whatever.
You put enough out there, like, it's going to be someone's flavor. Human sexuality and taste is so diverse that you put it out there, somebody's going to want it. Whether they'll pay for it is one thing, but, like, it happens.
And that's Clips... What'd you say?
I Want Clips.
I Want Clips. Sasha Belle?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other way is actually the opposite from what you said. Rather than finding, like, oh, what's big, what's everybody making right now, a tactic, and that's kind of what HD Wedding was founded on. It was just this guy that had worked in cable news and decided, well, I want to use this skill to make something that's gonna pay the bills, and looked up, like, what fetish has the least representation that is good.
Okay.
And was able to pretty successfully dominate that market. So
this is not a wedding site.
No, wetting with 2 T's.
This whole time, I thought you said HD Wedding.
Oh, wedding. No, this is not marriages.
I am so slow.
I don't think we have had marriages on any of our
That is hilarious that this whole time I thought, okay.
I've done thousands of those videos. There's probably a wedding somewhere.
Two people getting married and then they both wet themselves.
Yeah, it's be cute.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try that next time.
I mean, high cost value with the outfits, but,
Yeah, you can get one at Goodwill.
You could rent them.
I do a lot of shopping at Goodwill for set pieces.
That makes sense.
It's always the, like, male directors that get the really expensive shit, and then you're just like...
Could have saved money here.
Could have saved so much money here. You could have given me more money.
Nobody cares about this outfit. Back in the film, Joe disassociates and thinks of his fiancée and him drinking some milk out of a wine glass, which honestly I found more disturbing than what was happening in the film.
It's so cute.
Dave gets them all together for a photo shoot, and Chota Boy says, don't worry, nobody's going to see this movie. So let's talk about who sees the work. You can't choose who sees your face. If your face is in the content, is thoughts of future employers, like you've already touched on, like people, knowing people in everyday life. Like, is this a thought that enters your mind, or are you just like, it's just not even
Yeah, as a trans autistic person, conventional work was never going to happen for me.
Makes sense, yeah.
I've tried working like 40-hour jobs for an employer, and that's always been a huge crash to my mental health and always ended up in burnout and quitting or being fired. And that's, I think, the way it is for a lot of people in the sex industry is traditional work doesn't work out for us for whatever reason. So I was never really afraid of future employers because, like, finding a supportive enough workspace for me that if they had seen me in a porn video would fire me probably means it's already not a good workspace for me.
Well said.
The other way I rationalized it when I was starting, because once again, like, friends that I was talking to, like the small circle that I was telling about my work, were like, you know, like, what if somebody from the church finds it? And I'm like, I'm behind a paywall.
Yeah.
If somebody from the church says, you know, I saw you in this video, I'm going to be like, oh, really?
Oh.
Tell me about it. How far did you watch? What did I do?
Yeah.
Tell me. And like, I feel like it would probably be a lot more awkward for that person to approach me than it would be for me to be called out.
That makes sense.
And honestly, like, as a woman in the church, I'm already have less to lose. Or somebody who is perceived as a woman in the church, I had less to lose than they did talking about pornography.
There's just layers. We next see the VHS tapes getting shrink wrapped, and you might not know this, but I grew up in a video store. My dad had a video store, and in the back, he had this very same shrink wrap machine because we'd get the VHS tapes, and he'd take the tape out to put it in a gel case to rent the actual tape, but then they'd put styrofoam inside the paper case and then shrink wrap it, and that's what went on the shelf. So every time I see this part of the movie, I remember the smell of that machine, and it brings me back to like being really little, and he'd let me like put things through there to shrink wrap it, like toys and stuff. So it was I just love this weird little sequence. But next we slowly see the film is gaining popularity, and he has not been paid yet. We see a kid playing with action figures from a porn movie. Orgazmo beats E.T. at the box office. It's very, very funny. And then the director throws a party that has a naked mariachi band called El Naked Mariachi, which is lovely. Joe says, I'm not Orgazmo, and he's ashamed. So let's just touch on sexuality and shame. There are pivotal roles, as we've discussed, where sex work can help in unlocking things for people and be very therapeutic. But there is this like idea that it's a shameful thing, despite the fact that most relationships involve sexuality to some degree. Like, I don't even really have a question. It's just something that I was like...
That's what it is. A lot of people are ashamed of sexuality, especially in this country that was founded on Puritanism, and a lot of, like, the Overton window is a real thing here. And yeah, a lot of people do think that it is a shameful thing. I think a lot of them feel ashamed of themselves more than they do of others. And that's really sad to me.
Yeah, same.
Like, just let yourself, like, it was Mary Oliver in my favorite poem says, you only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Like, just do that. I guess is my not answer to your not question.
That's the best answer to my not question ever. So thank you for that. Because next, Dave talks about Depeche Mode, and...
God bless Dave.
So good.
Hey, what do you think of this band?
Fine.
Yeah, I think they kind of sound like Depeche Mode. You know, I don't want to sound like a queer or nothing, but I think Depeche Mode is a sweet band.
Meanwhile, at G-Fresh, he's confronted by the bad dudes. He gets beaten with a bat multiple times and has a tiny cut on his cheek, and it's just, oh my gosh. So he's forced to sign the papers. The director then pays Joe and says he'll pay him $40,000 to do Orgazmo 2. So the next morning, Joe talks to Lisa and reveals he's doing the sequel in a sequence that we've already discussed.
Hello?
Hi, honey.
Oh, Lisa. Oh, hi.
How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. I have some news.
Good or bad?
Well, good and bad, I guess. They want me to do a sequel.
A sequel?
Yeah.
To Death of a Salesman?
Next on the set, A-Cup introduces himself, and he's awful. I've never liked A-Cup. I've always found him just utterly grotesque. Shooting begins, and everything's off. Even the stunt double is African-American, even though Joe is not. And then Dave compliments Joe's costume.
Hey, is that a new costume, Joe?
No, I think it's the same one we've always used.
You know, I don't want to sound like a queer or nothing, but I think you've got a really nice ass.
Thanks.
Sure, dude.
It's beautiful. Later that night, Chota and Joy learn that the punks that shook down G-Fresh work for the same director. They decide to fight the thugs. They dress up, go into the nightclub, head up to the office, fight with dildos. All the men are orgasming. It's just an amazing fight sequence. Next, Lisa shows up at Joe's apartment, and the next day, A-Cup is awful again. And then we get Chota Dog. They've added something to the sequel. So I wanted to talk about inspiration and new ideas. We kind of touched on it earlier, but I was just curious if, like, you have dreams of something, and then you go, oh, you know what? I could make that a video, or anything of that nature.
A lot of times it's just conversations with people about it. Kind of like you and I were like, oh yeah, people could be getting married and have an accident. Like, that's usually how it goes.
That's how it goes. Makes sense.
Like, we'll have, I guess, weird tangent, but my friends and I have a card game that we make the cards ourselves. It's like Cards Against Humanity,
Yeah.
but, like, not racist.
Yep.
And so one of the things that we put on there as a relatable experience for everyone was trying to have a normal conversation and just coming up with more P-video ideas.
Well, I get that so much because I love, my wife and I call it spitballing, where you're just throwing out an idea from like every angle possible. And like, it's so fun to let your brain just like unwind on something like that and be like, okay, so you're at the checkout line and, you know, then the P happens, or we already did wedding. But like, I mean, my brain will probably do this after we end this conversation for the rest of the evening. It'll just be like, because my brain just loves to do those like little, it's like an equation, if you will. Lisa goes to the video store and peruses the Jesus section in the video store, and
I cackled so loud that my partner in the shower turned it off and was like, are you okay?
it's so good, the variety of Jesus movies.
It's not far off from reality.
Oh my gosh. And they're playing Orgazmo, so she hears his voice and she goes, Joe? And she asks what movie it is, and the guy says, have you been living under a rock? And she says, Utah. And he says, I'm so sorry. It's endlessly hilarious.
Excuse me, what movie is this?
What movie's this? Have you been living in a cardboard box, lady?
No, I'm from Utah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Back on set, Haruko and Natsuko are brought on set. I looked up, these weren't porn stars. These were just actresses, I guess they found. They have nothing on IMDb. I was shocked. I just assumed after seeing like Chasey Lane or Ron Jeremy, I was like, they had all these people. He says he can't say the line, and so they try to get him to say ass fucked.
Joe, you say, I'll find a way to break free, ass fuck twins.
I'll find a way to... well, I can't say that.
Say what?
What are they called?
The ass fuck twins.
I can't say that. Can we call them something else?
But they're the ass fuck twins.
Well, I know, but couldn't I call them the naughty twins or something?
No, you couldn't just call them the naughty twins. They're the ass fuck twins. Why would you call them the naughty twins when they get fucked in the ass all the time?
Anyway, Chota Boy arrives and tries his cock rocket, which just visually, there you go. Then Dave hits on Joe in a very, very sweet moment.
Oh, hey, Joe.
Oh, hi, Dave.
You know, you did a good job in there today, man.
Thanks, man.
Now, I don't want to sound like a queer or nothing, but I'd kind of like to make love to you tonight.
Joe arrives home to find Lisa watching Orgazmo. She says he must quit, and he says, I have 2 days more. So she leaves, which means she didn't return the VHS. And as someone who grew up in a video store, I find that really disheartening. Next, Sancho arrives to be in the adult films, and he's Sancho. Let's talk auditions. Did you ever audition for things, or when people reached out to you, it's just...
No.
That's it?
No, I'm expensive. You have to... I will not do things for free.
Excellent.
I get clientele that want like a preview or a sample. I have never had a director ask me for an audition. Okay. That's not something that happens. Like the last current photos, just to like see like, okay, how long is your hair?
Yeah.
You know, what are you like?
Yeah.
Send me a photo with like the date to just like get an idea for whether they want to cast you or not based on your current look as opposed to your portfolio. But that's as close as it's ever gotten.
Okay. The director says he won't budge. He won't let Joe go. His fiance goes back to the apartment, but Joe's not there, and she's kidnapped. Joe and Chota argue. The movie's really like ramping up to the end sequence here. And there's a funny little moment where back on the set, Lisa says they degraded all those women, and Ron Jeremy says that the men are equally degraded, and they have this little back and forth, and I was curious about your take on this scene.
You pig! You're the one responsible for degrading all of those women!
Hey, what about men, huh? He degrades them too.
Yeah, men are equally degraded in pornographic films.
The men are always in a position of power.
The men are the one who want the product so bad. They're the victims.
Well, then, it exploits men by exploiting women.
Hence, it exploits people.
I think that porn being degrading really comes back to that people are ashamed of themselves thing. Like, I'm not ashamed and I don't feel degraded. I'm in complete control of this. Like, maybe the people, like, the ways that, like, well, the men are the ones needing to buy it, so they're being victimized. And it's like, only if you think that buying porn is a bad thing for them. And, like, so everything can be done in excess. Everything can become problematic if it becomes an obsession. But for the most part, I think that the idea that porn is exploitive is only a valid argument if you already think that it's something shameful.
Yeah, well said. And on a completely different vibe, they encounter an attack dog. He shoots with the Orgasmorator, and it starts humping him. And the joke continues when they knock on the door, and the door's answered, and the dog is still... Oh, man. Next, they square off Chota Boy and Orgasmo with Ron Jeremy and Buttlord. There's a part where they break Ron Jeremy's face like it's pottery, but he's totally fine. Joe and Buttlord trade face punches for a solid 3 minutes. Sancho arrives to just have an orgasm. They fight the crew. They're almost defeated, but then Ben uses his hamster style, and Orgasmo's out of power, but Ben slams a lamp cord into the back of the gun, and they shoot the director multiple times, and one more for Jesus, knocking him into the pool. They lead everyone out in furry handcuffs and blow up the house in the cheesiest, most fake way possible, and they hold the camera on it just to show how fake it is, which is so funny.
Honestly, I think that scientists would be more offended by this film than porn stars.
Yes, that's true.
I can hear my physics and technology friends being like, "That's not how that works."
Yes. At all this time, Joe says he was running from himself in a very sweet little moment, and Dave meets Sancho, and you get the feeling like these two are going to work out.
Oh, they absolutely have the most beautiful life. They've got 2 kids in a house right now.
I would watch that sequel.
I would too.
The next day, Joe and Lisa pack up everything, and Ben and G-Fresh are ready to send them off. The guys wrestle with saying goodbye. Lisa says, "You don't have to say goodbye," and then they have a really aggressive tongue kiss. They're going to stay and clean up L.A., and they quote Dickens, even though earlier they said they weren't going to quote Dickens.
Well, they're not in his apartment anymore.
No, that's true. That's a valid point. And then Joe gives a thumbs up to Jesus, and then we see in a doctor's office, Lloyd Kaufman from Troma Films is the doctor, and they're going to amputate the director's genitals, and he laughs because he's going to be Neutered Man, meaning there would be a sequel to this, which there's not. And that's the end of Orgasmo.
Now you're a man, a man, man, man. Now you're a man, a man, man. You are now a man.
Final thoughts. What'd you think of this film that you hadn't heard of before?
I'd heard of it.
Okay, good.
I tend to not really watch comedies, especially comedies that have a lot of body humor. Sure. I tend to find them just like no knocking the people who do like those kind of comedies and like that kind of thing. But
easy jokes. I'm the same way.
I tend to.
I try to watch them. I'm like, oh, okay, this is funny, and then I watch it and I'm like, this is the same dick joke over and over and over.
Yeah, I tend to get either bored or grossed out. Yeah. Because like that, like we're just gonna do this thing for the shock value to make it funny is like not usually my type of humor. This one, I think. The fact that it was so wholesome was what really made it for me.
Yes. They know what they're doing. They're playing against the tone that you would think would be associated with a comedy at this time.
And nobody's the butt of the joke except for the actual butts.
Yes. Yeah. They don't have the... this is the time when you would see someone who would say, that person's a porn star, and they would make them so dumb and devoid of intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
And that's always the joke.
She failed algebra, so now she's a porn star.
Yeah. That's always the joke. And I feel like a lot of those movies, but that's not what they went for here, yeah.
No, we're all normal people.
Yeah, normal people. Well, that brings us to the final questions. These are questions just for you.
Okay.
You can choose whether you want to talk about it from your modeling, acting, or producing.
Okay.
Your call.
Okay.
What is a good day like for you?
A good day?
This is work-related, obviously.
Okay. So. I'm like, a good day?
Either
I'm
one
at
of those
Disneyland.
hats. Yeah, exactly.
A good day making porn or producing porn, honestly,
It's
like
all creation. So.
yeah. And it really is more collaborative than other film sets I've worked on. There's
So
not,
a good day would be collaboration.
yeah, there's not like the same ego that you get as like, well, the director and the EP are going to be talking about what happens and you're going to listen to directions and do it and the PA is going to get shit on the whole day.
Yeah.
A good day on a porn set is the complete opposite of that. The models are talking to each other, how do we want to position this exact scene? What are you comfortable with? The PA has an idea, like the Dave would be giving his input.
Yeah.
And
hopefully not while filming.
No, they do in fact usually know to not talk while sound is rolling. And sometimes people break and it's okay.
Yeah.
Like we're doing things that are already ridiculous. Like sometimes you have to hold the set for like really, really weird things.
Right.
And sometimes things that I probably can't say on a PG podcast or a PG-13 podcast or whatever, but
we have an explicit rating. You could say
okay. So like there's a lot of fun and I've definitely had scenes where like it broke and got put at the end of the
funny
scene
like
instead.
a blooper.
Yeah. Once again, like the tying up and getting hit with the sticks, and somebody was doing like the person who was being the dominator in that scene came in and said something about like was trying to say, should I start up and work my way down or should I start down and work my way up? But he completely tripped over the line and was just like, I'm down to where the up is. And like, I'm already got tears streaming down my face because they've been beating my ass for the last hour. And just like the release of like conflicting endorphins was just like, that didn't make any sense. Which everybody on the set broke and they had to edit out because everybody was just dying laughing. So they took that and included it at the end as an outtake, and it's one of my favorite things I've ever watched. Like I usually don't watch myself, but I watched that one because it was such a fun moment. So I guess that's a good day.
Yeah.
I had a real good thrashing. That's the kind of thing I enjoy in my personal life. So I was left,
There you go. Win-win.
I guess, that was a very good day. I was on the ground, like completely spent, like happy tears, and they untied me and I got to get up and they're like, okay, here's your $1,200. And I'm like, oh yeah, I get paid too. So like,
that's a good day.
Yeah, that's a good day. Everybody gets paid and everybody has a fun time and you get to collaborate and hang out with your friends and make movies.
I love that. I hate to ask it though. What's a bad day like?
A bad day is, and I might bother some people with this, there are good male directors and producers. There are a lot who think that what they think is sexy is what everybody on the planet thinks is sexy. And they think that what they think is sexy from porn is what people are doing in their regular lives.
Okay.
And some of that isn't true. Like double-ended dildos have no effect whatsoever. It's just rubber moving and it's kind of inside you and it's actually really, really hard to keep in. So like having to play to that ego of like, because they just want this to be the sexiest thing because that's their fetish or what they're really into, and being able to, once again, kind of having to act and do that therapy, not just for the video, but for the director themselves, and kind of play to that ego of like, oh yeah, this feels good, and not just be like, no,
this is a waste of time.
This is my job. Like, and like, obviously every scene isn't going to get every model off. Like that's, and like a lot of, like I know some asexual models who are just doing this as completely an acting gig and that's perfectly acceptable. But the bad day is when I just kind of like, I'll get the description ahead of time and be like, oh, that doesn't look like a lot of fun, but I don't mind it. And it's a lot more of those like okay things than the I want to do this things.
Not as a fulfilling day as the good day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily like a bad day. Like I haven't had some of the like extremely negative experiences that some models do. It is a lot rarer than people think, but it does happen. I've been pretty fortunate. Haven't been in any of those like dangerous situations, but I have been on days where it's just like, oh my God, like that much penetration in one day. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess.
That's a lot.
I need to pay my bills this week. But then I just kind of go home and like crash on the sofa and make myself a cup of tea. And I'm like, well, that was a thing I did.
Yeah, that was a day. Any advice for anybody who either hat that you've worn, the modeling, acting, or producing, Or anyone in the field.
Just do it.
Yeah.
If you want to make something, make it. Even if it's not good, put it out there. Somebody will like it. Don't think that, like I said, like there's a specific niche that's going to get you in the Hollywood scenes, but like you are someone's flavor. Your ideas are somebody's ideas that they're going to like. Everybody is different. Have fun with it. If like sometimes it's not fun, you just got to pay your bills, but like if you're never having fun, then you're just not doing it right. Like do what you want to do. Do your thing and just have a good time. And there's nothing wrong with what you make. There's nothing wrong with anything that you make because you're awesome. And just like, I don't know, be excellent to each other.
I absolutely love that. Where can people find you?
People can find me on Twitter at Sosha Belle XXX, or you can find my not spicy one. That one you will see a lot of explicit material. If you want my not explicit material, where it's more my activism and my art, you can find me at Belle Sosha. That's BELLESOSHA. I also can be found my like filmmaking work, my I guess normie filmmaking work you can find on Facebook at Film Chiral, FILMCHIRAL.
Yes, and once again, I want to say the documentary Distance, Sex Work in the Pandemic, available for purchase on the No Worries Film Festival Patreon. So go to patreon.com/No Worries Film Festival to watch that documentary. Thank you so much for being here, for watching the movie, and for sharing with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. As always, I'm Dirk Marshall, and this has been VH Us.